Hey there, guys. This is a kind of a highlight reel from my time on the live show with Zack and Aaron. It was an awesome discussion we had. If you want to see the whole video, go down there in the comment section. There'll be a link for it. Other than that, please subscribe. If you guys have already subscribed, thank you very much. It means a lot to me. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked the video, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there in the comment section, and I will catch you guys in the next video.
Yeah, so our guest is Max, and he has his own YouTube show called Rogue Yeti, I believe his channel. Hey, Max, how's it going?
Just going introducing good. How are you guys?
Great. So Max, gotta ask, Rogue Yeti, are you sponsored by Yeti or something like that?
No, I'm not. Yeti was a nickname I got back in high school, actually. I am a rather large, blonde, and hairy individual, so my high school swim team just decided to call me Yeti, and it stuck from then.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, great. So, and Max, just a little about what's your boating background?
So I've been boating for a long time. I don't remember when exactly I started boating. I know I started as a guest or a customer, depending on how you look at that, years ago. And then the major event in my life that really got me into boating actually was back in 2009 when I did a week-long Middle Fork trip with my family. It was a kind of a graduation present to my older sister. We jumped on the Middle Fork of the Salmon. We were out there for a week. I was a little stubborn back then since I was still kind of a freshman in high school, so I didn't want to tell anybody I actually enjoyed the river that much. But after that, we got into boating. And in 2013, I became a commercial raft guide out of Cody, Wyoming, on the Shoshone River, which is primarily a Class 2, Class 3 run where the rafts are. There are some excellent kayaking stretches on it. What's pretty cool about the Shoshone, especially through the town there, is it's dam controlled. So there is a constant amount of water coming through town all the time that kayakers can, just pop on after work and do a run and pop back home real quick. Back in about 2015, I actually moved up into the little town of Red Lodge, Montana. And then I actually guided on the Stillwater River this year. That's up in a smaller town called Absaroka, Montana, which is pretty close to the Yellowstone River. Don't let the name Stillwater, confuse you. There's very, very still water on the Stillwater. It's mostly Class 2 and Class 3 rapids on the Stillwater.
All right.
Max, your YouTube channel, Rogue Yeti, the word rogue in there confused me. I assumed you were a rogue guide. Where does the rogue come from?
When I made the channel, I had this idea of, this is basically my adventures and my thoughts. This is me going out in the world, having fun. I don't know where I'm going to end up next. So the whole Rogue Yeti thing was this idea of me having this adventure type life and, kind of documenting it, videoing it, and kind of sharing it out to the world. This is kind of another side thing, but, I always thought it'd be pretty cool to see, the Wampa from Star Wars wearing a Rebel pilot's helmet too.
Oh, okay. All right. I get it.
Nice.
So this comment because
that one too. What is that? Where's the Tallulah Gorge?
It's back east. I don't think a creature craft could even do it. Who knows? I think you have to hike into it. I'm not an East Coast boater. Somebody can.
They're banned. Like they've written legislation in to.
Yeah, I mean,
allow them.
I'm gonna ban them from the Hood River too. Don't come to the Hood. You guys are banned. So.
All right.
Oh, before we get started with this video, the reason I wanted to bring Max on and talk about this is he did a really cool review of it, his thoughts about it, and I didn't agree completely. I actually disagreed on some of his topics, so we want to just have a discussion. What happens here is kind of a mess, and the solution, I think, is not exact. So I think it's worth having a discussion, and I think getting a lot of you out there to comment on it too and give us your thoughts is be super cool, because we can learn too from what everybody thinks and kind of what maybe standard practice is for helping people that are stuck in a hole. And these guys, this private trip didn't scout. Is that right, Max?
As far as I could tell, yeah. I mean, they kind of start the video as they're floating into the rapid, or as this other private group is floating into the rapid. So it's kind of hard to tell if they didn't scout. But from some of the actions of the rafters going through the rapid, it's you can kind of tell that they're standing up. They're definitely trying to get a feel for the rapid. So you can kind of make the assumption that they didn't really scout it.
Yeah, and the guys on shore. So it's important. The guys videoing and on right now, this isn't their group. It's a different group completely.
Yeah.
It's going through.
So
And what I'm noticing is that they're creeping left. Like the trip leader maybe knew where to go. It says follow me, and the information being passed backwards is further and further left.
This is like the ducky line, where the first ducky after the raft goes right where they're supposed to go, and each one's a little farther off until they start getting hammered.
So this guy gets a little piece of the hole. He's a little bit more left than the guy behind him, and so the guy behind him probably thinks that's the line. It's like playing telephone, where the information gets passed back.
Yeah. Do we know the? Can you guys give a good estimate on the level here on the salmon?
It's 2.5 maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Zach's estimate. I mean, I've run the Middle Fork about 5 times now. The lowest I've ever done it is probably 3 foot, and the highest I've ever done it is actually 7 foot.
Chad, the audio is the best part.
Everyone wants to not hear us talk about it, Zach. They just want to hear the actual audio.
Google, just hang up on us and Google Middle Fork Maytag. You'll find this easily. The commentary is amazing. I love the commentary so much. The guy is like a redneck from Georgia or something. I shouldn't call him a redneck, but I love the commentary. It's hilarious. And I think a lot of people give him a hard time for videoing this instead of helping. And I have to say, if there's not my takes can be there's not much people could have done here once they're stuck in the hole. But having this video allows us to look at it later and learn from it. So I feel like, although people give him a hard time for videoing it, the video itself allows us to learn from it. And I'm not sure if that was his intention, but it allows us to have these discussions.
Oh, and Zach, let me chime in here. I'll also say, usually there's too many people helping in situations like this. So if you're videoing in general, that's good because you're not getting in the way. You're back out of the way, not creating more of a problem. So I'm sure they have enough people that can help out.
Which is debatable, but yeah.
I think depending on the situation, but I feel like a lot of these situations on a river like this, you get a lot of people get involved.
Yeah, because everybody wants to be a hero a lot of times. So, that's one thing. And he may not have the skills. We don't know that for sure. And I have to say, my good one.
That's
Chad.
a good one.
Like I feel like once they're in the hole, they're in the hole. But avoidance would be the bigger thing. So this should have been scouted.
I mean, Zach, really? I mean, you can see where
they didn't see it. That's my
point, though, Zach. Is like, that's great to scout, but I mean, having taught a lot and worked a lot with people, how many times have you taught students how to row? You scout the rapid, and you're in the raft with them afterwards, and they have no clue where they are. They're just I remember one time we ran this rapid, and we get to the bottom end, and the person guide's like, "All right, we're halfway done now." You're like, "No, we just ran the whole rapid."
Yeah, but when you scout,
scouting doesn't help that much sometimes. I feel like.
Do you remember dorms, or do you remember worms? Do you teach worms when you teach scouting?
What's worms?
It's an acronym like water obstacles. Water obstacles.
No, I don't do that. I don't do worms.
I don't do it either. But M is markers, and the most important one to me is markers, which is look at the things above. You have to go near. So Aaron, I've given hundreds of duckies the line through this rapid. I've never had them go in this hole.
Yeah.
So if they scout, they could, pull over scout, look at their markers, and not go in the hole.
I think I feel like a lot of times though, when people scout, that it's hard to get a good marker because you're looking down on the rapid and you have a different angle. So
that's what I'm saying is as you're walking back up, get your markers.
You got to try, but it's still, man, I just see some people mess it up. Even when you do that, I'm teaching it and we're going through it as we walk back up the side of the river, you still get out there and you're like, dude, they have no idea where they are. And you're just like, I don't know what else we can do. So, I'm not saying you shouldn't scout, Zach, but I don't think that just automatically solves the problem.
It doesn't solve the problem. I just feel like
I think they could vary. The probability of them ending up in the hole is still pretty high.
No,
even if they scout.
no. I think better leadership
Better leadership
helped
probably would have helped. Yes, but
better line, better information. Not having the information passed back, like, from person to person to person, just watching the person in front of you. I think better leadership. Max, we're just taking this over. Do you have anything to add here?
Well, I was just going to say, I've been in situations where I've actually managed to get around a hole. And then, I've been the front person, the leader, not technically the trip leader, but I've been the first boat. And then I've looked back upstream and I've seen, a boat go into a hole. And then, they made it through fine. And then it's like the boat's behind them. I don't know if it's like peer pressure or they've seen like one boat successfully do it, but they go into the hole. And I've seen a raft fully, a fully loaded raft on the main salmon actually basically go topsy-turvy, head over heels or whatever you want to say it, and flip over, spill everything out. And, there we have an upside down boat and, in a spot that could have been avoided, but.
Yeah. I think Willie Bum Bums has a good point too. Scouting depending on the group. Of course, if you're experienced and you can read water, this should be a no-brainer. But there needs to be something done ahead of time to avoid this. And I think that's my main point is like,
I think more the problem was kind of what Max was saying is the cat before him ran the hole, and the cat can run the hole easier. Yeah. And so he followed the cat. It's like, oh, that looks fun. And I think that's what got him in trouble. It wasn't.
And you avoid that by scouting, because then he knows where to go. He's not following the cat.
Yeah, but he'd still see the cat goes through and be like, oh, you can actually run that. Okay, I'm going to go run it.
My guess is he didn't think that looked fun. He was more like, that's where the cat went. That's where I'm following the person in front of me.
Yeah, there are certain scenarios where you can get a little narrow-minded like that. I actually ran the middle fork of the salmon this past, I think it was actually in May, and we had 3 rafts out there. And one of the rafts was actually my dad on the oars, and once I actually saw him cartwheel out of his boat right above Pistol Creek. So that's one of those scenarios of, you can kind of use that front person as kind of the marker. You see what happens to them and you do your best to, either go into that spot if you think it's a good call, or if something, like if something happens to them, like they swim or their boat gets kicked in a weird position, maybe you move to one side of the river or the other, depending on how the rapid is. And you can kind of use that first boat as, a kind of a judgment call for yourself if you feel comfortable running a certain line through a rapid.
Yeah, if you can see the first boat. I'm guessing in this case, the first boat was really, you couldn't see the details of the line. I think a lot of times when something goes bad, and I agree with Aaron, like sometimes there's too many people. And I like to if I'm not needed, remove myself. Cause I'll just like, I could create tension by being there, like having different ideas. So if I'm just extra, I'll get the video just so we have it later for like an after action review. When we did Nick's video a few weeks ago where he wrapped or stuck his cap out. Remember that one, Aaron? Yeah. I really wanted to fly the drone. I was like, oh, I want drone, but I was downstream safety, so I couldn't. But if there was one more person there, I would have pulled the drone out and got drone footage. But if you're needed, cool. But if you're not, it's so nice to have some footage if you can.
Yeah. And I think we've been on this before. If you come on a scene like this and you want to help, walk upstream or walk downstream or whatever, boat down, stay down. You'd be upstream safety, downstream safety, and try to stay out there because they're getting too much input. Not the It's not like they need more. Good point by Denise here.
Does anybody need to scout? In you can almost ask the question leading so nobody says yes. You kind of have to really that morning or sometime in the day ask people individually and make sure they feel comfortable scouting if they need to.
Oh, yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Kind of coming from my side, my dad is one of those, I wouldn't call him strange, but he's one of those guys who can read something in a book. That's just how he does stuff. He reads something in a book or like the guidebook or whatnot, and he can go out and do it. And sometimes, he might be watching this, but he can be a little thick-headed in the way that, we're coming up to this rapid and, people are wanting to scout this rapid and he's the TL on the trip and he says, no, we're not scouting. And so this past Middle Fork trip, we did have to sit him down and say, hey, we do have people that feel insecure about some stuff. So we're going to stop and scout this. And if you're not okay with that, I mean, I don't want to divide the group up, but we basically told them, if you're not okay with that, go on and meet us at the end of the rapid. Like I said before, I'm not one for dividing the group up. I don't think that's something great to do. There could be some safety hazards in there, but
Yeah.
if someone wants to stop and scout, don't shame them. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity to pull over to the side of the river. If you got to, fix something on your boat, or if you got to get out and stretch your legs or put a new piece of equipment on, take stuff off, it's a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And because the guys scouted, we have this video.
Yep.
And because people were scouting, there were potential rescuers probably too, because I don't think the people in this group made it up in time. Let's keep playing the video.
Really?
Yeah, I think they did a great job of, getting on that high side. But, the length of this video, there comes a point, and I actually kind of alluded to this and talked about it a little bit in, my own review of it, is that when you get to a point and you're just exhausted, you're high siding that boat, you're doing your best to stay on top of that boat, and you're just dead tired. And, it might be at that point in time, if you have enough energy left, is to jump out. Maybe hopefully you got some buddies on the side that can get you a line, but it might be a time where you just have to abandon boat.
Here, this boat that goes by throws a throw bag from the boat to them.
Wow.
This to me is really sketchy. You're not, let's say they grab the rope, neither people can hold on to it, and then you have a rope in the water. Like that.
Yeah. I mean,
You're not gonna you can't throw a bag to somebody, have them grab it. You might pull the person out of the boat and get them out, maybe, but this is pretty.
You could have two swimmers, both people from both boats can get pulled in. One person or the other is probably going to get pulled in the river.
Yeah.
Right? Like one of the two people. Person catching it or throwing it.
One important rule of throwbacks is that the person receiving it knows it's coming. I don't think these people knew a throwback was coming from the boat going by. Maybe they did, but it would have. My guess is this is an unexpected throwback.
Wouldn't you say another general rule too is you don't throw a throwback from a moving raft in general?
Yep, 97% of the time, I think that's the case.
I think another good point too is, and you talk about this a lot during, first responder courses and medical courses, is to make sure that you as a responder are in a situation that doesn't put yourself into danger. So, going back to that point of, the throw rope could actually pull the thrower out of a boat. That's not a situation I really want to put myself into or see my friends put themselves into, unless there was no other way of really getting to that person. And then, that'd be like my last alternative before, everything or after everything is kind of exhausted.
Yeah. So Jacob writes, do you ever recommend throwing a rope and then jumping out? I'm not sure what that means.
I think I understand what he means. It's an interesting idea. It's like tie a rope off to the raft, throw the rope downstream, and then jump out so you could go down and grab the rope and swim to shore and pull it out of the hole, which is an interesting approach.
There's two things I like about that. One is I think if you send a rope downstream, maybe a raft can get out and grab it. It's just like the rope's fully lengthed out down past here. Maybe that boat could grab it, tie it on their boat and pull it down, right? Tie it onto the boat in a releasable, safe way, right? If the rope's long enough. That's a possibility. I want to get these guys off the boat. Like I don't like these guys on the boat.
Why?
So
I mean,
that could mean just jumping out.
Yeah, I think jumping out is the easiest way to go. If you don't want to be in the boat, just jump out. Now, I feel like once a raft's been in there for a while, usually it fills with water and it's a lot less likely to flip. It depends on the features. Certain features are huge. When you're talking 10, 20,000 TFS, that's a different story. But when it's a more of a pour over type, once that boat fills with water, it gets more stable. And you're less likely to swim. You're less likely to have the boat flip. So now it's interesting. I don't think this boat's I see this boat. I'm like, I don't think this boat's going to flip. And maybe it does, but I'm just like, I don't think it's going to flip because I feel like, it's got some water in it now. If they keep their weight on that side, it's probably not going to flip.
How's it going to come out? It's just going to catch a certain current and pop out.
It might not come out. You may not. You may have to get a rope. It's not going to be there
for infinity.
Well, maybe the flow changes. Maybe something else comes in and hits it. But it's
not going to be there for a week.
And like this one, most likely to catch some current, get pushed down and pop out or something like that. If it flips over, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll wash out either.
It will. If it flips, in my experience, when they flip, they come out immediately, pretty quickly. I mean, much faster.
Mm.
Oh wait, I didn't mean to click that one. So Willie Bum Bum's into jumping. I mean, again, my fear right now is they're just like surrounded by like stuff that they get caught on. If they get caught and then flip, that's just terrible.
Well, and then going back to the whole throw bag and throwing the throw bag downstream like that, the one thing that I'd be worried about, Zach, is if you were in the boat and then the boat flips, you have that loose line in there, and so that would make me a little nervous. And even when you're swimming, maybe you get tied up in it as you get out of the boat and you get stuck in it. So like that's I mean, it's an intriguing idea, and I think there's some merit to that thought process, but there's some definite risk factors that are like, is it really worth that risk? Versus just jumping out. I mean, that's the thing. Is like if they jump off that downstream tube and just go downstream, they're not even get re-soaked. Their head probably won't even go underwater.
Yeah. No, I think that's what if I was in that boat, I would be jumping out at this point. I'm like, I don't want to be near all this stuff. This is a gear boat full of stuff that can hurt me, including the oars. I would want to get out. So Crazy Bill's a creature crafter, and when they get beat down in the hole, they throw a parachute underwater to get out. I'm not sure if I'm into that technique here, Bill. Sorry. Who's ever used a sea anchor? Hopefully nobody.
But I mean, that has merit too. That has as much merit as throwing the throw bag out and pulling it ashore. It's what the difference though is the creature craft has a lot less resistance with the hole than this does. It's going to take a lot more force to get this out of the hole than a creature craft, because the creature craft isn't full with water, isn't sitting down in there in the same way.
Yeah.
I have a question, and I actually might know your answer. I've been listening to your guys' videos and podcasts for long enough. But in this scenario, if you had the equipment to do it, would you think about using a live bait scenario for that?
No.
No?
Put
a person on a rope and have them swim out to the boat?
Yeah, swim out, try and grab the boat. Like I said, I think I knew the answer. I just wanted to put it out there to you.
But so Max, are you suggesting if there's no one in the raft or with people in the raft?
Either way, it's just the question I had. You could do it with people in the raft. You could do it with an empty boat. I just was curious if you guys would ever, think about doing a live bait for this kind of scenario.
My rule of thumb is never do live bait for equipment. If I'm going to do live bait, it's for a person. If it's just equipment, I'm not going to do it. So, these guys are on it. I'm definitely worried about these guys, but I don't think putting somebody out there attached to a rope, it's like adding danger, like you talked about earlier. You don't want to make things worse.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Right.
Now, I'll say, like, I know on the Ottawa River, that's like a standard technique on this one rapid. These guys used to work up there. That's what they would do. They'd live bait to get these rafts out of this hole. They'd swim in and get pulled out. And that was their standard technique. Now, I never saw it, but I know people do use that. Yeah, and there's other options before you live bait. Like, you can throw, like we've tied a stick to a rope and thrown the stick into the raft and try to get it, like, snagged on, like, the spare paddles, and then you pull it out or something like that. Because there's always something you can snag onto. Or, like, you get it wrapped around one of the pins or the locks. You kind of get it wrapped around one of those, and then you can pull it out too. So there's ways to do it without sending a person in there that I would want to use those techniques initially.
I would let the boat surf for an hour. Give it an hour. It'll come out. If it doesn't come after an hour, then you're like, all right, this is serious. But like, get the people out. Just give it, like, make lunch. Take your time, watch the show. If it doesn't come after an hour and it's terminally stuck, then you got.
But then you don't have anyone. Then you don't have anyone in the boat anymore either. So I mean, like right now, you have people in the boat. And
what are they going to do?
Well, I mean, like, if they do they can throw a rope from the boat to shore. They can catch a boat and clip it onto the boat. Like, they have those options there. So you're reducing your number of options. And like getting it to wrap around like a lock or something like that takes some skill. It's not like that easy of a thing to do.
I think once it's surfing, you're not going to get a rope to it without live bait. But it's going to come out eventually. I'm just not going to spend. I feel like every time we're in this situation, we just wait and it comes out eventually.
I'm in kind of an agreement. In general things, I feel like the river will take care of it. Like, it'll move downstream. Like, it's not a perfect hole, but yeah.
There's a live bait rescue of a manless boat in this. So I'd love to see that video.
Yeah, I want to see video of
that. I'm not going to choose to do that.
I'm going to say this. I've jumped out of a raft when I was the guide, and then one of the people on my boat stayed in it, and then they came out and they paddled the boat to shore, and I felt like an idiot.
You definitely, as the guide, shouldn't be the first person to jump out.
Yeah.
Oh, we all have our less than shining moments as guides. Believe me, I've had mine. So
Yeah.
And I think if what he's trying to do, I'm guessing, is get both of his oars in the locks. And so when the bow is in there, he can pull it back. Like, that's a strategy that would work. If you can just get the bow in there, get your hands on the oars. It's just really hard to get your hands on the oars when you're getting tossed all over the place.
I think that's what he's trying to do.
It'd be easier with pins and clips.
It'd be easier with pins and clips, and it'd be easier with a paddle. Like it'd be easier to do a lot of this stuff with a paddle.
If he had pins and clips, these oars wouldn't be doing all this.
Oh, geez, here we go.
That wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, they'd be swinging around and hitting you in the head. That's what they'd be doing. They wouldn't just get pulled out and be out of the way. It'd be more dangerous, Zach.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But you have your oars probably, and you could just, if you turn the boat and pull, that's, and
yeah,
for them.
No, totally agree.
So you almost flip
totally
there.
agree.
You know, should these guys on shore be throwing a throwback? And my first take is no. And a lot of people really bag on the guy with the camera and everybody else for not throwing their bags. But my take is you're adding rope to the situation, which as this boat's spinning around, the rope could get tangled in different things. And I'm not sure if one or two people could just pull this boat out of here.
I mean, haven't we all heard stories too of people being stuck in holes and people throwing ropes to them and becoming a mess? Like, I feel like I've heard of numerous stories of kayakers in particular. Like, they threw me a rope, I was in the hole. Yeah, it was scary. You know, they got wrapped around them. Yeah. Ooh, wow, that's getting pretty violent.
So I think instead of throwing the bag from shore, because and making that toss where these guys actually catch it is brutal. They have to catch it. As soon as they drop, the rope's gone. Like, the catch of the throwback here is insane. So while the boat's moving, for them to actually get their hand on the rope would be a heroic throw. I think the option is the people in the boat throw the bag to shore, if that's what they want.
But even that's going to get messy, though, Zach. Think about that boat keeps spinning around. That rope is going to get wrapped around the boat. It's going to get wrapped around the pin. It's going to get wrapped around people. I feel like if you're deciding to get a rope and tie a rope off, assuming they're going to tie it, maybe they're just going to hold on to it, which might be better to hold. I don't know. Would you guys rather have them holding the rope or have the rope tied off to the boat right now if they threw a rope from the boat to shore?
The reason I'd rather have the guys from the boat throw it to shore, because they're making a choice to make that throw. If people start throwing them bags, they may not be choosing to receive the bags because they can't communicate. The shore can't communicate with the boat. So they can choose not to receive it, but the people on the boat, maybe if they're not experienced, they may not know the danger of receiving a bag. So if the trip leader does it or somebody you don't know, they might just trust them to receive it and attach it to their boat. They might be taking on a risk by doing that.
Totally. I like Willie Bumbun's comment, the one after Dan's. I think if there is going to be a rope from shore that's going to get attached to I think it's best to get it attached to the boat and get those people out of there.
Yeah.
I
want to see a rope connected to a hard point when the rider bails.
Yeah. Like, if one person gets out right away or whatever, they throw a bag, they get the bag, one person, just get that rope tied off and get out of the boat. And then then it's just gear recovery. Yes, you got a rope from shore going to it, but you don't have body people in there that can get wrapped up in the rope at that point. And that seems like probably the safest option.
One person jump out. Just definitely get one person out. There does need to be two people in there.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need two. Just have one of them leave. The second person tie a rope to the boat and then jump out. So there's a rope that's going downstream that can be used for some sort of a recovery.
Yeah. And I think even Zach, I'll say it, if someone throws you a rope, you tie it off and jump out if they throw you a rope. But nowhere in there is it a good
once it's attached, get out. Once it's attached, I'm out. Yeah.
I've never tried to do tube deflation for this, but that's interesting. It would change the forces on the boat. Zach, your lunch plan. I'm curious about your lunch plan. Would you just say, you guys stay in the raft, we're going to go have lunch, and hopefully the boat comes out while we're eating lunch?
Yeah.
Or would you?
I would set up lunch a little bit. Yeah. We're gonna be here for a while. Let's watch the show. Let's have a sandwich.
Yeah, and just let those people just be out there. Hey, do you guys want us to throw you an apple? And you can just
tell them to get out. If you guys don't get out, you don't get lunch. Like, you guys,
But then if they get out, it's much harder to get a rope to the boat. Do you feel like there's a responsibility for other traffic coming downstream that you're creating more of a hazard for other groups? Like if a ducky runs into that or something else drops into there, like instead of, do you have a responsibility to get it out of the river as soon as you can?
Have a spotter be on the river, be like, hey, don't go where you're not supposed to go. One of these guys on the shore could just stay there and be like, hey guys, don't go to the obvious bad place. I think having a spotter is a good idea. The spotter doesn't get lunch. What I want to point out though is one of these guys on the right is not wearing a PFD and his dry suit is unzipped.
Oh yeah, that's a good eye on that one, Zach. That's the
super dangerous. If you're on a scene, you are in your equipment. I mean, having a dry suit unzipped, if you fall out, that's probably the most dangerous thing here. Is that guy?
Yeah, that seems like the sketchiest move, like of it. Like, and I'd say worse than the boater going by and trying to throw a rope to them as they went by. I'm gonna also say this: when those people try to do those dumb things, usually they're not very good at throwing throw bags. Luckily, so it usually doesn't make it to the person.
Position upstream safety, yeah, upstream. This is upstream safety, upstream spotter, downstream safety. We're in that whole world of, what we're supposed to do when stuff goes wrong. And now Homeboy with the video is running for some reason.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have that upstream spotter because especially out there in the like on the Middle Fork or any long trip, you're enjoying the scenery, and then you see somebody standing there on the bank, something is either going wrong or, there's just someone stopped there for lunch. But, I think what he was trying to do is maybe get to a position where he could grab a rope or some other piece of equipment. But, yeah, they changed positions, and I think the boat turned and put him on the low side and flipped him over that way.
Where are we at?
A lot of bad comments, Dan.
How much the lunch weighs? It came out before. Yeah, I could have cut a tomato in that much time. At least one tomato. I'm pretty good with tomatoes. Low side is picking up lunch. But now they have to, there needs to be a quick reaction because this boat is going to go through Tappan 2 and Cove Creek, which I feel like before Cove Creek, but like, you don't have a ton of time. Flipping over your boat is a project. And so getting this boat to shore is going to require some effort.
And I feel like that's the classic is like, this is what we talk about with the wraps too, is being ready for when that boat comes out. Like the boat could flip or the boat could come out empty. And like, how are you going to deal with it?
Yeah. I mean, thinking this through to like, hey, what if, having the plan when this ends, how are we going to solve the problem is certainly helpful. Halder makes the other great point. Why are they not wearing helmets?
Well, Zach, good question. Do you wear helmets on the Middle Fork?
I do not. My duckies do. I do. That's a good question. I do not. I probably should. I know the river pretty well, so I'm not super likely to. I shouldn't have said that. Knock on wood. I know that I think we probably should wear helmets. Yeah.
There are spots on the Middle Fork in the past years, and this one's no exception, where I have gone helmetless. The video I was just doing myself here, looked at Haystack and Bernard. I wasn't wearing a helmet through those, but the bigger stuff, the class 4s, and the majority of class 3s, yeah, I'll go find my helmet and put it on.
It's interesting how in the U.S. a lot of class 3 rivers we don't wear helmets.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. Or even like on the Grand Canyon, we don't wear helmets, and you're like,
wear a helmet on the Middle Fork, Aaron?
No, I don't.
Okay. I think I'm going to excuse us a little bit, not to be cocky, but we know the river, we know the rapid, and we don't get into. If you're running and you don't know the rapid, and it's a difficult rapid, maybe at minimum have the helmet by your side. Throw it on for the bigger stuff. Throw it on for pistol and velvet and the first 20 miles for sure. And then throw it on for tappets, throw it on for other stuff.
So I want to put, a kind of an add-on to that. The river I run, the Stillwater, it gets pretty, filled with trees during the early spring runoff. Do you guys still follow that same thing of not wearing a helmet kind of on your first few trips? Or do you actually, have or are you more likely to carry a helmet on your first couple of trips because you don't know the deadwood situation or the tree situation, or if there had been another blowout somewhere on the river?
I'm almost always going to wear a helmet these days. I think on the Middle Fork it's different because it's hot out. I don't want to wear a helmet 8 hours. But if I'm going to go boating after that we're done here on a river I know really well, I'm going to wear a helmet. It's class 3, just because it's good form. But I think generally I wear a helmet.
Yeah, the helmet thing, I feel like I want to think about it some more because it's interesting now. Like I've had people when I used to work internationally, they'd make fun of us in the U.S. Like I remember this one guy, this one South African, would be like, yeah, and in California, class 3 rocks aren't as hard as class 4 rocks. You don't need to wear a helmet. He used to make fun of us all the time, and I'd be like, yeah, you kind of have a point there, you know. So
I mean, it's standard PPE around the world. So Willie asked about our guests on the Metal Fork. We bring helmets for everybody, and we require them at times. So when we think they're important, we make people, like usually the first 20 miles for sure, maybe the last day. In Duckies, definitely. But then there's some days where it's like class 2 for a whole day. You know, I think that it's nice to not wear a helmet. You know, having a helmet on in heat too can, you know, cause heat injuries versus like a cap you can put in the water and do it. So we do it when it makes sense. Some outfitters require them the whole trip. Some don't require them at all. And some are like us. We do it when we think it's prudent. So
and I think that's one of the reasons private boaters don't wear helmets is because not all. I think if all the commercial outfitters had their people wearing helmets, the private boaters would be wearing helmets much more often. But they look at the commercial outfitters as the example.
I don't think they look at the commercial outfitters. They probably look at other experienced private boaters. That's my guess. As leaders, we should always support and push for safe helmets. I totally agree. I think helmets are awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say wear them 100% of the time always. I think there's times when you can get away without them. But I'd say you're right. Most of the time they should wear helmets. PFTs, 100% out of hours. You always wear PFTs.
I saw that pop up, and like I've said before, I've listened to you talk about stuff on your podcast and whatnot. And I kind of knew Zach's answer from there. And I was actually going to make the comment of, life jackets are incredibly important, and I also think that you should wear them all the time.
I mean, I feel like you shouldn't have to have laws to make people do things they should do.
Yeah, I know.
Right? I think it's our job is to make the point, like you should always wear a PFT.
Like wearing seatbelts and wearing helmets when you ride a motorcycle.
I don't know. I gotta decide how libertarian I am. I have to rethink my whole life. Jared writes paddle boaters and motorcycles. I would say when you're rowing, you should wear a helmet almost for sure because the most dangerous thing was the oar hitting you in the head. So when I row, I'm always wearing a helmet. Unless it's a gearboat on the Middle Fork, because I don't know. I gotta think about that too. Chad writes that people taking off the flat water, you won't see our guides or guests or me doing that ever. We'll always wear PFTs the whole time. But it's become a thing on the road, and let's say it's an issue.
When you say wearing them too, you're wearing them properly. You're wearing them zipped up, clipped up, fastened, not like some loose, unzipped thing to look cool, right?
Yeah, tight. Yeah. Well, cool. Let's wrap this up. Max, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Everybody out there, check out Max's YouTube page, Rogue Giddy. Give him a subscribe. Subscribing really helps channels just get more attention. So if you guys have a second, please do that. I'll even try to find his channel here in YouTube and post a link in the comments. And Aaron, do you want to do our official closing here?
Well, Zach, you forget about the notifications, man. Don't you guys want the notification, the little bing bing every time Zach puts something online? If you're really dedicated, hit the bell. Yeah,
I would recommend not doing
that. Max, thanks again for joining us. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite. It was a fun time.
Cool. All right.
Cool.